April 14, 1943. Dawn cracks over the Solomon Islands and the humid air hangs heavy with salt and the faint smoke of distant skirmishes. You can almost taste the tension, metallic and sharp, drifting over Henderson Field. Japanese Mitsubishi Zeros slice through the sky in perfect formation, their engines humming like lethal insects. Veteran pilots, hardened by countless missions over the Pacific, glance at each other with smirks. "They're just toys," one of them mutters, eyes on a strange silhouette on the horizon. It's the new Hellcat, the Grumman F-6F, climbing steadily toward them. Broad wings, a bulky fuselage, and a radial engine that roars with confidence. To the Japanese, it looks almost comical. Too heavy, too slow, too American. From the cockpit of his Hellcat, Commander Clarence "Bill" Martin grips the controls. Sweat trickles down his temple, but his expression is calm. Years of training have prepared him for this moment, though he knows his adversaries will laugh, dismiss, and underestimate every move. The morning sun glints off the aluminum fuselage, and for a heartbeat, it feels like the calm before a hurricane. Below, the coral atolls glisten like scattered jewels, indifferent to the storm about to erupt above them. The Zeros dive and bank, graceful, almost mocking in their maneuvers. Martin adjusts his throttle and sights along the horizon. He knows that the first moments will determine everything. Then the first shot is fired. A Zero jerks sharply to avoid it. A ripple of surprise passes through the formation. The veterans who were so confident moments ago now hesitate. The air has changed. The joke is over, though they don't realize it yet. The Hellcat, heavier than the Zeros it faces, feels like a stall at first, but Martin pushes her forward and the radial engine snarls in defiance. It climbs, faster than anyone expected. The bullets streak past, the whine of enemy engines grows frantic. You can almost hear the disbelief. But the real test is yet to come. The Japanese pilots have mocked the Americans for years, and Martin knows he has only one chance to prove them wrong. One wrong move, and the mockery will turn into chaos, and not for him, but for the enemy. Somewhere in the formation, a veteran pilot laughs at the Hellcat's ungainly shape. Then another stutters, brakes slightly, unsure. The confidence of hundreds of missions starts to crack. How did a clumsy American plane gain such speed, such firepower? The sky itself seems to tighten, closing in on the confrontation. Every roll, every dive, every calculated shot is a silent announcement. The rules have changed. The Zeros, elegant and deadly, are now being hunted, and Martin is leading the hunt. The sun climbs higher, burning off the morning mist, and the Pacific sky becomes a vast, unforgiving arena. The Japanese pilots, once brimming with arrogance, begin to notice something unsettling. The F-6F Hellcat doesn't just keep up, it climbs past them, its bulk slicing through the air with unexpected grace. Commander Martin loops into a high-speed dive, guns spitting tracer rounds like lightning. One Zero jerks violently, a puff of smoke trailing from its engine. The veteran pilot's confident grin falters. Another Hellcat swoops in behind a second Zero, forcing it into evasive maneuvers it has never had to perform before. The sky is no longer theirs. It belongs to these new American machines. You can almost feel the disbelief rolling through the enemy formation. How is this possible? Someone must have thought. The Zero, long celebrated for its agility, is suddenly vulnerable. Every dive, every climb, every burst of 0.5 caliber fire feels precise, calculated, almost surgical. Martin's squadron moves like a single predator, sweeping the Zeros from the sky with a fluidity that seems impossible. In the cockpit, Martin doesn't have time to gloat. He feels the heat of the moment, the weight of responsibility. Each target is a split-second decision: take the shot or risk being outmaneuvered. The Japanese pilots, though skilled and fearless, are scrambling, some too late. The roar of the Hellcat engines fills the air, punctuated by sharp explosions and the metallic groan of aircraft in distress. A veteran Japanese ace who had survived dozens of battles over the Coral Sea starts to falter. He underestimated the Americans' new technology. He underestimated their pilots, and now the mockery that once filled his mind is replaced with a cold, sinking fear. He's not just losing a dogfight, he's witnessing the death of a myth. On the ground, U.S. spotters at Henderson Field track the engagement with tense awe. Every successful maneuver sends ripples through the Pacific campaign. The Hellcat isn't just a plane. It's a symbol of a shift in power, a harbinger that the tide of war is turning in ways the Japanese commanders hadn't anticipated. But the battle is far from over. The enemy is regrouping, trying to adapt, desperate to regain control of the sky. And Martin, he knows that one miscalculation could undo everything. The question lingers in the roar of engines and the tracers that streak past. Can skill alone overcome the entrenched myths of aerial supremacy? By mid-morning, the sky above the Solomon Islands has become a battlefield of contrasts, sleek Zeros weaving desperately through sunlit clouds, and the bulky, powerful Hellcats stalking them like predators. The Japanese pilots had laughed at the F-6F only an hour ago. Now, disbelief has hardened into panic. Commander Martin and his wingman, LT, James Jimmy Halsey, execute a coordinated maneuver the Japanese had never anticipated. The Hellcats split dive and then climb in perfect unison, forcing the Zeros into tight, erratic loops. Every burst of .50 caliber fire finds its mark. Smoke curls from engines, and one by one, the Japanese planes falter, trailing black plumes across the turquoise sky. You can almost feel the panic, each veteran ace scrambling, twisting, diving, trying to regain the edge that once seemed natural. They were masters of the sky, yet now the rules have changed. The Hellcat's superior armor, firepower, and speed are rewriting the definition of aerial combat. Below, on the decks of the U.S. carriers, radio chatter crackles with excitement and disbelief. Pilots report multiple kills, each one pushing the Japanese into retreat. The commanders in Tokyo, if they could see it, would realize their aircraft had met a foe that they could not simply outmaneuver with skill alone. The myth of the Zero's invincibility is unraveling. Martin banks sharply, narrowly avoiding a tracer that screams past his cockpit. His focus is razor-sharp, aware that this is not just a test of planes, it is a test of nerve, instinct, and courage. He sees a Zero struggling to maintain formation, engine smoking. He fires a final, precise burst. The plane spirals downwards, disappearing into the Pacific below. A moment of eerie silence fills the cockpit. Only the roar of his own engine and the distant cries of battle remain. He glances at his wingman. "They didn't see that coming," Halsey mutters, awe and relief mingling in his voice. And it's true, the Japanese pilots had mocked them, and now the mockery has been replaced by shock. But victory in the sky is never final. Somewhere in the retreating formation, a new threat is gathering, and the battle for air supremacy is far from over. The F-6F Hellcat has proven its power, but can it sustain it against the next wave? The tension is electric, the stakes higher than ever. By late afternoon, the sky over the Solomon Islands is littered with smoke trails and the occasional glint of twisted metal tumbling toward the coral below. The roar of engines has faded, replaced by the distant, rhythmic hum of returning aircraft. The Japanese pilots, once so confident, have retreated in disarray. They carry with them a bitter realization. The era of easy domination in the Pacific is over. Commander Martin lands his Hellcat on the flight deck, tires skimming over the steel as the arrestor hook snaps taut. Sweat drips down his brow, but his expression is calm, almost unreadable. Around him, mechanics rush to refuel, rearm, and prepare the next sortie. Each movement is a rhythm of precision and survival. He knows the Japanese will be back, but so will the Hellcats. On the ground, officers record the engagement with a mix of amazement and urgency. Reports note the devastating performance of the F-6F, heavier, faster in dives, stronger in climbs, and almost impervious to the light machine guns that had once been lethal. This is more than a victory, it is a revelation. The American Air Forces have a tool that can challenge, even dominate, the myth of the Zero. Meanwhile, the Japanese pilots gather, their faces grim behind the helmets and goggles. Veteran aces whisper to each other, incredulous. "They're fast and armored and relentless," one murmurs, shaking his head. The laughter that greeted the Hellcat that morning has vanished completely, replaced by a quiet, gnawing fear. The realization sinks in. The balance of power in the skis is shifting, and their tactics will have to change, or they will pay a deadly price. For Martin and his squadron, there is no time to celebrate. Each pilot knows that mastery of the Hellcat is not enough. Cunning, courage, and coordination must follow. But today, they have earned more than survival. They have earned respect. And in that sky over the Solomon Islands, they have rewritten the rules of aerial warfare. Yet, somewhere far to the north, Japanese intelligence begins to register the reports. Commanders in Tokyo will learn that one plane, flown by one confident American pilot, has turned the tide in ways no one could have anticipated. The implications stretch beyond this single battle. And as the sun dips toward the horizon, the waters below shimmer like molten gold, reflecting both the destruction and the promise of what is to come. The laughter of the morning is gone. In its place is a new reality, one that the Japanese pilots will never forget, and one that the Americans are only beginning to fully understand. Night falls over the Solomon Islands, but the echoes of the day's battle linger in every corner of the Pacific. The smell of salt, oil, and scorched metal clings to the air. Pilots sit quietly in dimly lit tents, cleaning their Hellcats and recounting the day's chaos. Every story begins the same way, the laughter of the enemy and the moment it died. Commander Martin leans back against the fuselage of his plane, eyes tracing the stars that will guide the next sortie. He knows the Hellcat is more than a plane, it is a symbol. For the first time, Allied pilots have a machine that can meet the zero on its own terms. The fear and respect it inspires will ripple through every Japanese squadron. One dogfight, one demonstration of skill and engineering has altered perception and strategy forever. Meanwhile, the Japanese Air Force, usually disciplined and confident, is shaken. Veteran pilots write in their logbooks words that sting with disbelief. "We underestimated them. We misjudged their machines. The skis are no longer ours." The Hellcat has shattered assumptions, forcing a rapid reassessment of tactics, training, and the very design of future aircraft. Back on the carriers, celebratory chatter is subdued by the knowledge that this is only the beginning. Each victory in the sky carries a weighty responsibility. Martin's squadron understands that dominance must be maintained, and that the enemy, humbled but not defeated, will adapt. But for now, the lesson is clear. Courage paired with innovation can redefine the impossible. And for the viewer imagining this scene, you can almost feel the shift. The very air of the Pacific has changed. The laughter that once filled the sky has been replaced by awe, respect, and the quiet dread of those who thought themselves untouchable. The Hellcat is no longer just a plane. It is a turning point, a dramatic symbol of ingenuity, bravery, and the relentless momentum of Allied innovation. The next battle will come, fierce and unforgiving. But the story of that morning, the laughter, the disbelief, and the ultimate triumph, will echo through history. The zeros may return, but the lesson remains. Mockery can quickly turn into shock, and even the most confident enemy can be humbled when skill meets superior design.